Masechet Ketubot Daf He. Topic today is, how clear does a vow have to be? Does it have to be spelled out very clearly? Or do you say, you know what I mean, and even if it's not so clear, it's still valid? All right, that's going to be the center of discussion regarding a statement of Shemuel. We already saw one explanation. Shemuel makes a comment about our Mishnah. Our Mishnah mentioned that someone who says, Mudad ani lecha, I am avowed from you, I am far from you, and then gives other examples of anything that you will eat, anything from you, anything that I will taste from you. And so brought these different formulas and says these are all valid abbreviations. So a simple reading of the Mishnah sounds like all 5 of these are separately good valid abbreviations. If I say I am far from you, I am distanced from you, or anything I will taste from you, sounds like those by itself, each one by itself will make a that vow. Shemuel, however, said some himself ambiguous words. He says, "Bechulam ad sheyamar shani ochel lach shani toem lecha." That the first 3 formulas, mudad ani lecha, I am avowed from you, is not enough by itself. You have to also add that which I will eat from you. I am avowed, or I am distance from that which I will taste from you. You have to add both together. All right, so our first interpretation, here we're going to see outline of, is that the I'm avowed from you by itself is not valid at all. It's too ambiguous, we're not sure what you mean, and that's why you have to do both. But we already rejected that because there were 2 other braitot, and we couldn't fit that interpretation to those braitot that said asur, and in different ways. So now we're going to see 2 more possibilities, that maybe if I just say I'm avowed from you, that means it's valid in both directions, me to you and you to me, whereas the other formula that I will eat from you is only one way. We're going to reject that. Then we're going to say maybe I'm avowed to you would restrict both eating and having any benefit, whereas that which I eat from you is only going to be eating. So in other words, in these 2 answers, this simple language, I'm avowed from you, any of the first 3 formulas, would actually be more stringent than saying this with the second 2 formulas. And not that it's not valid by itself, but it's actually more stringent by itself. But we're going to reject that. We're going to actually come back to number 1. And even though we question number 1 in that it's challenged by a braita, we're going to show that's actually based on a machloket Tanaim, and so Shemuel can be following one of the Tanaim. All right, so let's see. Okay, so our second solution was as follows. Ela amar Shemuel, this is what he meant to say. Tamad amar shani ochel lecha shani toem lecha. Hu de'asur v'chavero mutar. It's only because if he says the full formula, I am avowed to you, and he also says that which I eat from you, then he is prohibited to his friend, but his friend is prohibited to eat from him, from the one who made the vow. Aval mudrani himach lechude shenehen asurin. But if a person says, I am avowed from you, himach is the same as mimach, which is in the Mishnah. If he just said that, I'm avowed from you, then that actually would go both ways. So interestingly, by adding the extra phrase, she'ani ochel lecha, that makes that clarification makes it only one way. I am prohibited from you, I being the vower, whereas mudrani himach is both ways. I'm totally avowed from you, separated from you, and therefore we can have nothing to do with each other. And now, what Shemuel said here is also supported by Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina said, mudrani himach shenehen asurin. All right, now we're going to challenge this from a Mishnah. First, we're going to challenge Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina, and then we're going to apply the same challenge to Shemuel. Tenan, hareni alecha cherem. This is a Mishnah later on. It's worth reading the entire Mishnah because we're going to quote it piece by piece. So the Mishnah later on 47b says, hareni alecha cherem hamudar asur. I am to you prohibited like something that's dedicated to Bet HaMikdash. Then it's the object of the sentence, not the person making the vow, but his friend who will be prohibited from benefiting from anything that the vower has made. Because it says, you are a cherem to me. However, it says, Hare at alai cherem hanoder asur. If he says, you are prohibited to me, right? You are like a cherem to me, then it's the vower who is prohibited from benefiting anything from the friend, but the friend can benefit from the person who made the vow. So that's one way, and then the other way. Hareni alecha ve'at alai shenehem asurin. If he says, I am prohibited to you, and you are prohibited to me, then both of them are prohibited from each other. Okay, so let's see these three phrases and try to reconcile it with the words that Rabbi Yosef Bichanina. Tenan, hareni alecha cherem hamudar asur aval hamadir lo. If the person says, I am hereby to you like a dedicated item to the Bet HaMikdash, then it's the friend who's prohibited, but the one who makes a vow is okay. And this is a challenge to Rabbi Hanina, because this sounds a lot like Mudrani Himach, right? Hareni alecha cherem, Mudrani Himach. And over here we said both ways they're prohibited both ways, whereas in that Mishnah 47 only one way. So that's the question. The answer is no. Kegon de Parish ve'at alai lo. The Mishnah on Daf 47 is assuming that he added an extra phrase. I am to you like a cherem, but you will not be prohibited to me. He actually clarified that, but if he didn't clarify that, then yes, it would be the same as mudrani himach, I am avowed to you, which is meaning the same thing, and it would go both ways. All right, fine. Hat al-at alai cherem. The next part of the Mishnah, you are to me like like something prohibited. In that case, hanoder asur hava mudar lo. In that case, only the one who made the vow is prohibited from benefiting from his friend, but not the other way around. So that's also a question, because at alai cherem is semantically equivalent to mudrani himach. I'm avowed to you. So isn't that a challenge? Because up here, Rabbi Yosef said both are prohibited, and here only one way. And we give the same answer. Kegon de Parish v'ana alach la. We're limiting that Mishnah 47. We're assuming it means that he continued and said, you are like a cherem to me, but me to you, no. So since he said that, that's why it's only one way. But if he left it out, then it would be both ways. All right, does that work? And if he didn't clarify either of these statements, then what? Shenehem asurim, it would be both prohibited, and that would fit with Rabbi Yosef said. But the next part of the clause in the Mishnah says, if he says, I am to you and you are to me, both prohibited, then they are both prohibited to each other. It sounds like only in that case. Only when he specifies, I am prohibited to you and you are prohibited to me, then it's prohibited both ways. But if he doesn't specify, he only says one way or the other, then it only goes one way. And that contradicts Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina, because here he only said mudrani himach, which is only one way, and yet both ways are prohibited. So it's impossible to reconcile Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina with the Mishnah in 47. Rather, we have to understand Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina as follows. If he said mudar ani lecha, both ways are prohibited. If he says, I am avowed to you, the language in this formula with this extra word lecha actually has a double meaning. Mudar ani lecha, I am avowed to you, so I'm making myself prohibited to you. But also lecha sounds like anything that is of yours, anything in your possession. Mudar ani, I am prohibited to. So I am prohibited to you, and also I am prohibited from benefiting that which is yours, and I am also making myself prohibited to you. That's what he meant to say. That's what he was actually talking about when he said this one formula can go both ways. But he would agree that mudrani himach, which is this is the same as the language of our Mishnah, the same as mudrani mimach, hu asur v'chaber mutar, that would only go one way, because it doesn't say lecha, it just says one way. I am neded, I am prohibited, I'm avowed to you, so he is making himself he is prohibited to his friend, but his friend is prohibited to what he has. And so that's what the Rabbi Yosef said, and therefore it can reconcile easily with this Mishnah later on, because it would be the same as at alai cherem, where hanoder asur. Here also mudrani himach, it would be the same hu asur. Fine. So that Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina did not actually say what we thought he said. He was talking about a phrase with the word lecha. But now that we've solved that, we have to go back to Shemuel and reinterpret Shemuel. V'amatintin dekatani himach. Our Mishnah says himach. Ve'okimna l'matnitin l'Shmuel. And we just we said that our Mishnah, according to Shemuel, has an okimta, is limited in its scope, and it only applies bechulan ad sheyomar shani to'em lecha v'shani ochel lecha huda asur v'chaber mutar. That the first phrase, I'm avowed to you, will only be valid if he says I also adds on that which you eat, that I eat from you, that which I taste from you. Aval mudrani himach shenehem asurim. But just the language alone, both of them are prohibited. And so you see, and we just proved from the Mishnah 47 that in a phrase like mudrani memach, it should only go one way, not both ways. So we have to reject that. Let's just follow our outline. So to say that this phrase would be valid both by itself would be valid both ways contradicts the Mishnah later on. So we'll try a third interpretation. Ella meikara de Shmuel hachi itmar. This is what Shmuel actually said. His wording is we're going to change the wording, his wording a little different to make it make sense. Tama da'amar shani ochel lecha v'shani to'em lecha hu de'en hu asur ela ba'achila. If a person says, just the short phrase abbreviated, that which I will eat from you, that which I will taste from you, then the prohibition applies only to food, but not to any other type of benefit. I could still take a lift with him in his car, or sleep over. Okay, ha mudrani memecha asur afilu bahana'a. But if he said, I am avowed to you, then it's prohibited. All forms of benefit are prohibited. That's what Shemuel was saying. All right, does that fit? No. If Shemuel meant that, he should have said it more clearly. That if he only said shani ochel lecha, then is not prohibited except in eating. And that's it. He just could have said that simple phrase and we would have understood it. In any case, this explanation really does not fit with the original words that we actually have in the name of Shemuel. So instead, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning and fit the interpretation of the original simple words of Shemuel. Ela hachi itmar tama da'amar shani ochel lecha v'shani to'em lecha hu de'asur. Only if he says a full phrase, I am avowed to you from that which I will eat from you, then that is a valid prohibition. Aval amar mudrani himach la mashma amar asur. But mudrani himach is too ambiguous, doesn't even sound like he is making a prohibition. And there's no prohibition at all. So rather than the simple phrase being in some way more stringent, it's actually not valid, as we said above. What's not valid about it? What else could it mean? What is the meaning of such a phrase? Could be mudarani memecha la mishtayna behadach mashma. If he says, I am avowed from you, that could just mean that I am not speaking with you. That's all. I don't want to have anything to do with you. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to eat from you. I just don't want to have to talk to you. It says I am separated from you. That just sounds like I don't want to do business with you anymore, right? I don't like your product. You feel like you were dishonest with me. I'm not doing business with you anymore. But it doesn't mean that I can't eat something if you offer it or invite you over. And literally, if it says, I am separated from you, or I'm distanced from you rather, that means I don't want to come close to you. Right? And so I'm prohibiting you from coming close to me, or I will not become close to you. But it doesn't mean that I can't benefit or eat from food that is yours if you make if you sponsor the kiddush, it doesn't mean I can't eat from it. And so therefore, that's the problem. These phrases are too ambiguous. You don't make a binding vow until you say, that which I will eat from you. You have to specify exactly what you mean. Otherwise, we follow the ambiguity. Otherwise, if it's ambiguous, we don't really know what you meant. All right, very good. So we're going to conclude with that understanding of Shemuel. And what are the consequences? Remember, before we rejected this opinion of Shemuel because of two baraitot. But here is why we can accept this answer now. Lema kasaba Shemuel yadayim she'en machichot lahavyan yadayim in Shemuel mokim la l'matnitin ki Rabbi Yehuda damar yadayim she'en machichot lahavyan yadayim. So does this mean that Shemuel follows the opinion that says abbreviations that are not clear, she'en mochichot, there's no proof of what he meant, abbreviations that are not clear, are not valid abbreviations and do not validate? Does he agree with that? We'll say yes, Shemuel in fact does agree. And he says that this Mishnah, our Mishnah Nedarim, follows the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda elsewhere is of the opinion that says unclear abbreviations, unclear statements are not valid. And so this is those baraitot are following the Chachamim. Shemuel is following Rabbi Yehuda. All right, so now this gets into this very interesting topic of an ambiguous phrase. How clear do you have to be in a contract? Well, we're going to prove it from a Mishnah in Gittin. How clear does the language in the Mishnah in Gittin have to be? We're going to say in a few minutes, maybe there's a distinction between a get and a neder, but right now we're assuming it's the same. Gufo shel get, hare at muteret lechol adam. According to Tanakama, in the get, what do you have to write? You are permitted to any man. You can go marry anyone. That obviously that means that they are divorced, and that this is a get. So that's all you have to write, even though it's a bit ambiguous. Rabbi Yehuda omer v'din teheveh lichi minai sefer teruchin v'geret shebukin. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you have to specify exactly what you mean. And you have to say, this letter here, this contract, shall be to you a document of divorce, a letter of dismissal. You have to make it clear that that's what this is, right? It's not just a random piece of paper that I write, hey, you are permitted to marry any man, and you infer, oh, this is a get. Yeah, you have to actually write, this is a get. Okay, so you see, according to the Yehuda, you have to be very clear. According to Chachamim, you can be somewhat ambiguous, and it's still okay. So Shemuel's following the Yehuda. Okay, and now we ask, Amay dachik Shemuel lukma lematnitin ki Rabbi Yehuda lukma kerabanan afagav de'en yadayim mochichot. What's pushing Shemuel to say that our Mishnah is the minority opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? Why not follow a simple reading of the Mishnah that each phrase by itself of the 5 phrases does make a valid vow? And even if he says mudrani memecha, that by itself would be a valid vow, and mufreshani memecha, that would make a vow, and that is what Rabbanan say, and that is true, even though it's not a clear abbreviation. But the rabbis say even an unclear abbreviation is a valid abbreviation and makes an effective vow. What's pushing Shemuel to say that, oh, you have to take one of the first 3 phrases and add in the other 2, I am avowed from you from that which I will eat. You have to add that in. Otherwise, we don't know what you mean. Maybe you mean that I'm just not going to talk to you. So Amar Rava matnitin keshite amay taneh shani ochel lecha shani toem lecha litni shani ochel shani toem shemamina bein yadayim mochichot. So Rava explains that the Mishnah's language itself is what was difficult for Shemuel. How come in the last 2 cases of the Mishnah it says that which I will eat from you, the extra word here lecha, that which I will taste from you? Why not just say that which I will eat, that which I will taste? Now, anyone who would be present, it would be obvious to them that I am speaking to you. If I say that which I will eat, I'm not prohibiting anything that I eat. I'm talking to you after we just had some kind of tense interaction, and I say anything I will eat. And that should be enough. It's clear enough, even though the words are not clear. Everyone knows what you mean, so that should be sufficient. Therefore, we see that we need, and so if it was enough to have an unclear, if an unclear abbreviation was valid, then the Mishnah could have just said Shani Ochel. From the fact that it adds in the word Shani Ochel Lecha shows that we need clear abbreviations. Only a clear abbreviation is valid. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, in the first three instances, formulas, also has to be a clear formulation. And so Shemuel says, well, these are not clear formulations. I'm distancing myself from you. That's not a clear formulation that I can't eat from you. So that's why Shemuel said, oh, it must be that you need one of the first three phrases plus one of the second phrases. And that's the only way to make a vow. That's what pushed Shemuel to explain it in that way. Okay, very good. So that's the explanation of Shemuel. We've arrived at our conclusion. And now that we have that with us, we're going to delve into this controversy regarding how clear do abbreviations have to be. It's actually a machloket between these later 4th century Amoraim. Itemar, Yadayim she'en mochichot. Abaye amar havyan yadayim, v'Rava amar la havyan yadayim. So abbreviations that are not clear, that are ambiguous, Abaye says it's a valid abbreviation, and you make a binding vow. Rava says, no, it's not a valid abbreviation, and there is no vow here. Amar Rava, Rabbi Idi asperali. Rava says that Rabbi Idi explained to me the source for this ruling, why it's no good, why you have to have clarity. Amar Keran nazir lahazir laHashem, makish yedot nezirut lenezirut, ma nezirut behafla'a, af yedot nezirut behafla'a. Where did we learn the law that abbreviations can be valid? From Nazir itself, and because it said the double language, Nazir lehazir. And over there, that is juxtaposed. So the derivation of abbreviations is juxtaposed to Nazir. That's where we learn it from. And Nazirut itself, it says the word lehafli. Hafla means to articulate clearly. Where do we see that? Here's the original pasuk. Ish or isha ki yafli lindor neder lehazir ki yafli lindor neder nazir lehazir laHashem. If someone expresses, he means to express in a clear way. So therefore we learn that just as a taking upon oneself, nizirut, has to be expressed clearly, and from that context we learn abbreviations. So we learn that abbreviations have to be clear, and that's why Rava says an abbreviation that's not clear is not valid. Okay, good. So now we know the source for Rava. Lema bipluktad Rabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanan kamipalge titnan gufo shel get hare'at moter d'chol adam. Rabbi Yehuda omer v'den deheve lichi minai sefer teruchin v'get peturin v'geret shibukin. Abaye damar k'Rabbanan v'Rava damar k'Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so now we know that this is a machloket between these two Amoraim. And we just established a few minutes ago that we saw the Mishnah in Gitin that said that this is the same issue is what's at stake in that Mishnah. So perhaps we can line up these Tanaim with these Amoraim. As follows, since the Mishnah said that the essence of a get is you are permitted to all people, even though you don't write this is a get, right, this document, it's clear enough. So an ambiguous statement is good enough. So that would be Abaye, right? Because Abaye is the one that says an unclear abbreviation is still an abbreviation, just as an unclear get is still a get. Whereas Ravak would say, like Rabbi Yehuda, just as Rabbi Yehuda says, you have to write, this is a get. So too, Rava says regarding vows that an unclear abbreviation is no good. And then we can line it up. Now, it would seem nice if you could line it up, but actually this is a problem because we don't want that each Amorah can only be according to one Tana. Presumably, Abaye knew both Tanaim, Rava knew both Tanaim. If they can explain themselves according to everyone, then that is even better. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Amar lach Abaye. So Abaye, who said that you can be unclear, it's okay to be unclear, he would say, my position that an unclear abbreviation is valid, I would say that even according to the Rabbi Yehuda. Ad kan lo kamar Rabbi Yehuda be'inan yadayim mochichot ela gabe get de'minkritut veleka. Rabbi Yehuda only said you need very clear language regarding a get, because a get has to make a full severance of the relationship and make it clear, that's it, we are not married anymore, you can marry any other man, and we are done here. This is a get. So because of it, they have to make it, a get has to be clear, because you need an absolute separation. If they still have any kind of, a condition, you are divorced on condition that you will never drink, anything like that, he can pull it back, is not a separation. So that's because there you need clarity. That's why he says you have to add those extra words in the get. But even if Yehuda would agree, did he ever say that ambiguous statement is no good? If you can tell from the context what the person means, then regarding a neder, then the Yehuda may very well agree that an ambiguous phrase, neder, is a valid neder. So Abaye can explain it both ways, and so too Rava Amar Ana Damre Afilu L'Rabbanan. Rava says, I think that you need an ambiguous abbreviation is no good, and even Rabbanan would agree with me. Ad kan lo kamer Rabbanan ela ba'enan yadayim mochichot ela gabe get. Then Adam megareshet eshet habero. I only say, Rabbanan would say, that we do not need clear language, and even an abbreviation is fine, only except regarding get, because a person cannot divorce someone else's wife, right? There's no point. So if I write a statement that looks like a get, it's clear that it has to do with my wife, since there's no possibility of ambiguity. But in general, would he say that? In other words, if a neder, I can theoretically make a neder that would apply to anyone. We don't know who I'm talking about. If I say, that I will eat, I will eat from you. Are you talking about this person, that person, a group of people? And so you have to be very clear in a neder, because the possibilities are open-ended, what a person might mean. Whereas in a get, man's only married to this woman. He has no possibility of enacting a divorce with someone else's wife that he's not married to. And so therefore it's clear enough, since there's only one person that he can possibly be directing it to. Even if he just says regular language, you are permitted to all people, that's sufficient, and you don't have to write, and this is a get, because there's little room for misunderstanding in the first place. So interestingly, the differences between get and the neder are in an exact opposite direction for Rava as they are for Abaye, but there is an argument to be made both ways, and therefore both Abaye and Rava can explain their positions in Nedarim, no matter who we follow, regarding the ambiguity of a get. We'll ask further questions about this on the next daf. Baruch Adonai L'Olam. Amen v'amen.